Ugh, please, okay? I don't have a song this week. I don't have a song in my heart, okay? Let's just get on with this. Hi, welcome. It's so nice to have you here. You are listening to a Seat at the Table podcast. That's right. It's me, your girl, Gail. You can find us on Instagram, a Seat at the Table pod, all one word. Listen, I'm going to tell you why my life looks just like Kaya's right now. You can find me on Twitter at Galanda Adams. That is GAILONDAADAMS. Every week we go through this. I don't understand why we have to do this, but I'm going to be hooked on phonics one day. And when I am, bitches won't be able to tell me shit. Oh, you guys. Oh, welcome. Oh my God, please. Okay, so let's talk about my phone life for a minute, okay? Because so one day I realized that my home button, I have an iPhone 6 Plus, judge your mother, okay? I am happy with my 6 Plus. It's big. It dials out. I can do 3-way calls. I can FaceTime, and I can be on the internet, and I can have my dirty girl apps. So, for your information, I was happy with my 6 Plus. That was until the home button stopped working. Now, here's my problem with Apple. You make this thin-ass phone. Bitches put phones in their back pocket. You say, oh, a feature of the phone is that it could bend. You negate to say that when the phone does bend, several things that you need on the phone will no longer work. You didn't say that part. So here I am now with a non-working home button. Now, what I have been able to do is get a home button on my screen. It's a whole to-do. It's a whole mashugana. Don't worry about it. The phone is fakakta. Okay? Any which ways. How are you? How's your penis? How's everything hanging down there? I hope to the left. Oh, my God, honey. Okay. This week in my life. So, first of all, if you've ever worked a job where you've been conscious enough to realize your leadership, and that has nothing to do with title or position, but your leadership. Like I am the type of person that I think has a natural leadership, if you will. You know, I like, and it's not anything that I think, sometimes I'm not conscious of it, but I do think that, you know, I'm always able to back up my shit with my work. You know, I've always felt like in the work environment, I've always been a producer, someone who executes, you know, but also someone who's not here for your bullshit. So at any rate, you know, I think that people come into our lives for different reasons. And I acknowledge that, you know, where I am at professionally is definitely like starting all over again, you know, in my career, in terms of position, maybe not in terms of title, but, at any rate, I believe that you encounter different situations in your lives and different people to reflect something about yourself that you need to see. And also for you to, you know, in whatever shape or form, be a blessing to someone or be part of someone else's lesson. Sometimes it's not always about you, you know, but if you dig deep enough, you can find the why for. Well, at any rate, you know, my boss and I have a schism. And the schism is very deeply rooted in the fact that we're both alpha female. And I think that that's the only commonality that we have between each other. And the fact that we're both 40 years old and that we've worked in retail. Okay, great. Outside of that, I think from a personality standpoint, we're very different people. You know, my boss is someone who is very good at when it comes to her areas of responsibility, delegating out the tasks. And it's not like, if you've ever had a boss that can delegate out tasks, but are also could get in there and tear the project up or tear the task up, it makes you have a different level of respect for them when they're there to facilitate, because you know that in their time of facilitation, what they're there to do is to teach you. Yes, they could do the job and just fucking get it done themselves, but they want you to learn because they inherently are good people and want to see you learn a new skill so that when you go forward, and I mean, I adopted this from one of my very first bosses that I had was a man named Carlton Evans, and I know this is going all over the place, but stay with me here. One of the reasons why I've always gravitated to him as a mentor, and at that time at the beginning of my career as a boss, was because you knew that he inherently wanted the best for you. So yes, he could get in there and do anything he was directing you to do, but in his teaching you, he was doing so in a way that like you could A, learn, and B, he didn't have to be ashamed of you going on to anywhere else saying that you studied under the tutelage of Honey Daniels. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like you could go around and say that you worked for him and it meant something and you learned from him, and he was okay with you saying that because you weren't smutting his name. You know, my boss now is, you know, all in all, when I dissect it, she is someone who doesn't want to be where she is. She has been working for the company for almost 20 years and is still working on a store level, which, you know, sounds crazy, but in all intents and purposes, depending on certain organizations, it's not crazy. If you're working for a Fortune 500 company, fashion company, retail company, a lot of times if you've been working there for a long time, you are grandfathered into a lot of perks. You are, you know, the landscape looked very different at the time, so your benefits may look inherently different. You may be grandfathered into different kind of benefits, longer vacation times, what have you. So yes, there is add value to you being there, but you also haven't moved an inch. You're an inchworm in terms of your professional career, right? So here we are dealing with someone who is our boss who, for all intents and purposes, does not want to be where she is. And because she doesn't want to be where she is not engaged outside of just verbal semantics. She's not engaged in the process of what it takes for us to work. And so therefore, working under the umbrella, the guise of someone who seemingly could be anywhere else but where they are is really hard. And I realized that in that moment I had to take a look at myself and say, you know, what is it that you're giving off? Like, yes, you don't want to be there, and you are painting everything you do with that. And you are coloring the atmosphere with that, and it is stinking up the joint. So I definitely had to have my own come to Jesus moment. I had to have my own come to Jesus moment this week with myself, and just acknowledging that, you know, listen, you are creating this place that you hate so much, this place that you are blaming someone else for how bad the experience is. You are contributing to that bad energy, that bad juju that exists. So then I had to make a decision of what I was going to do with that energy. And I just decided that I was going to pour that energy into being a brighter energy in a place where perhaps for all intents and purposes, I could continue to be in a dark place and be dealing with that and bringing that energy, but still expecting it to be better. you know? So yeah, that's what I was dealing with this week. And then I became a woman. Oh my God, you guys. Now listen, when I say I became a woman, I mean in the physical sense. Like, it's that glorious time of the month for me where Mother Nature proves to me that all is well that ends well, because girl, though you may bleed, you shall not die. Though you shall run, you will not faint, honey. Okay. And so here I am becoming a woman and feeling hypersensitive about life this week. And then I turned on the trash that is the news. I found myself also being really disgusted with life just based on the news this week. Can we talk about it? Shall we talk about it? Okay, you guys, the Botham Jean case. So the verdict was read this week in the Botham Jean killing, where the defendant, Amber Geiger, Officer Amber Geiger, was, if you recall the story, out in Texas, where Officer Amber Geiger entered an apartment that she thought was hers and shot the person who was the actual inhabitor of said apartment. And that was a black man named Botham Jean. Now, Amber was on trial and fired from her position. She was facing up to, I believe, 30 years or something like that. She was given 10 years for her sentence. And also, Botham Jean's brother Brent gave a victim impact statement. And in his statement, he said, amongst many things, that he wanted the best for Amber, because that is what Botham would have wanted. And that he hopes that she is truly remorseful and that he does not even want her to go to jail. He then asked the presiding judge if he could hug her. So he then gave Amber a hug, and this was followed by some exchange of tears. And then the judge in the case, uncharacteristically of a judge, then also gave Amber Geiger a hug. Now, I think that's where the story gets a little bit muddy in the water, is that people are not liking the fact that the judge not only gave Amber a hug, but also gave her a Bible and read a Bible verse with her. Super wild. I think that it was my understanding that there are also clips out there of jurors saying that they could not give her that, they, on the table, the ask was for up to 30 years, and they just couldn't do it. They couldn't find it in their heart to give Amber this amount of time. Now, let's break it down for you. Let's paint the full picture. You and I both know that Amber will not do 10 years in prison for this murder. Amber will probably do 6 years at the most and be let off with probation. I think that there are several facets to this. I think that, number one, a lot of you were fucking big mad about what took place in that courtroom. And I don't just mean the hugging. You guys were fucking viscerally upset because of the forgiveness. You guys are holding on to some anger, honey. Let's talk about it. Let's unpackage it. Let's unpack it. I found that a lot of people were having a hard time with the fact that Brett was so forgiving of Amber. And I heard a lot of, why is it the black man's responsibility to forgive white people and absolve them of their guilt? And, this is what happens when you worship a white Jesus. You will forever see them as, you will have this Christ complex against them. And, I heard Charlemagne say that. Listen, here, a lot of us have not reached that place in our spiritual journey